President Trump's America's First agenda if elected. On the Democrat side, business owner Dakari Lariat and lawyer Everett West are heading to a runoff, but either of them would face an uphill climb in deep red Alabama. The Republican and Democratic runoffs will be held on June 16th. Bernie Bennett reporting.
Speaking at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy commencement today, President Trump says those cadets have shown unbelievable heroism and exceptional selflessness.
You've all been tested. You'll be tested further and probably at higher levels as your career goes on, but you've been very strongly tested and you have what it takes.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 645 points. The Nasdaq rose 399. The S&P advanced 79. Oil dropped below $99 a barrel. More at townhall.com.
Looking for a great real estate agent? Someone who can help you sell your home fast and for top dollar? Go to ready.com, REDY.com. Because on Ready, agents will pay you just for the opportunity to sell your home. Yeah, on Ready, agents will pay you for your listing. Thousands of dollars up front just for a chance to sell your home. And it's easy. Just go to ready.com, enter your address, and when you want to sell. In just 48 hours, the best local agents are competing on Ready to be your agent with cash offers up front just to win your business. Hey, your listing is valuable. Don't give it away. Make those agents earn it. Get paid to pick your real estate agent. Go to ready.com or call 800-885-REDY. 800-885-READY.
The first of 3 executions planned this week around the U.S. has been carried out.
An Arizona prisoner convicted of killing another man by throwing gasoline at him and lighting a match was put to death Wednesday. Prison officials say 63-year-old Leroy McGill was given a lethal injection for the murder of Charles Perez, who was attacked along with his girlfriend in 2002, and that process went according to plan. McGill waived his right to seek clemency. Arizona now has 108 prisoners on death row. I'm Julie Walker.
A federal judge has refused to postpone a trial next month for civil claims stemming from the 2024 collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. 6 construction workers who had been filling potholes were killed in that bridge collapse. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters reporting.
This program is brought to you in part by Ability Tree Experts. Ability Tree Experts, Houston's leading tree care professionals.
Call 281-441-4179.
From the KSEV Weather Center, tonight expect cloudy skies with high humidity and a few isolated thunderstorms. The temperature will drop to 73 degrees. Tomorrow will bring mostly cloudy conditions with high humidity, a few showers, and the possibility of a heavy thunderstorm. The storm could lead to flash flooding and strong winds. The high will reach 78 degrees. Tomorrow night, anticipate a couple of evening showers and potentially another heavy thunderstorm. Otherwise, it'll be overcast and humid with a low of 72 degrees. With the KSEV Weather Center forecast, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jason Caterina.
Texas isn't just a place, it's a feeling. A kind wave from a neighbor, sharing a plate of barbecue, or celebrating a big win on the football field. It's the way we treat each other, on and off the road. So every time you drive like a Texan. Kind, courteous, and safe. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation.
Checo Pro Joe here. Join me this Saturday at 11 a.m. when Andrew from A&A Gem Pro Generators discusses whole home standby generators and the peace of mind they bring. That's this Saturday at 11, right here on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas.
Looking to save on energy cost? Then tune in Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. for the Solar Wise Radio Show with your host, Sean Davis. That's the Solar Wise Radio Show, 8 a.m. Saturday on AM 700 KSEV and AM 1540 KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Pool days call for cookouts and lots of laundry. This Memorial Day at Lowe's, save $80 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner gas grill. Now just $199. Plus, get up to 45% off select major appliances to keep dishes, clothes, and food fresh. Having fun in the sun is easy with us in your corner. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See associate or Lowe's.com for details.
Where should I begin?
Can we talk about this?
Say, what are you trying to say?
Beyond the usual controversial talk.
Blah, 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 on and on.
Over there.
One, two, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Prepare yourself for Craig.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Preparing a mighty new spectacle here.
Articulate, stimulating, hit you right in the... there you go.
We start becoming a team right now.
This is the Craig Collins Show.
Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host.
He's a good man.
Craig.
That's right. It is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KJBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. So much stuff out there to talk about. So many things to discuss. Massey did lose yesterday. I did talk about it a lot. It did wind up happening. President Trump is crushing it. If you talk about his primary record and endorsing candidates, it probably means really, really bad things for John Cornyn, who we also discussed a little bit yesterday, did not get the endorsement of President Trump, thank God. A whole lot of people had to tell Trump once it first started to come out that he was contemplating endorsing Cornyn, that would be a bad idea. But actually, one of the big things that Ken Paxton himself credits as being a reason that he kind of prevented the endorsement, and we all remember this, was Paxton throwing down the gauntlet, saying go ahead and pass the SAVE Act, the Save America Act as it's being called now, if you want that endorsement, and I'll drop out of the race. And, of course, Cornyn didn't do it. Paxton went on to stay in the race and now has the endorsement of President Trump, which means a lot of good things. Here is Ken Paxton on Fox News talking about exactly this and why he credits this one simple act and how much Trump wants this. And anyone who doesn't know, by the way, the Save America Act or the SAVE Act is designed to ensure that our elections have integrity, that our elections cannot be cheated in any way, shape, or form, that only people who are legal citizens of this country vote in our elections. Essentially a good thing that a whole bunch of Americans agree we should do. For some reason, Cornyn's not on that bandwagon, and that really hurt him. That and also a lot of Texans, especially conservative ones, hate him. And I think rightfully so, and hate the things that he's failed the most on us, most for us on. I've only lived here about a year, but certainly some of those issues are a pretty big deal. And yes, Paxton has baggage. Most people that I've talked to, whether they're in politics or not, in Texas, believe that this will now be a very expensive race. And it was an expensive race to oust Thomas Massey. That also was an expensive race. A lot of money is getting spent, but at the end of the day, you might have someone who better represents you. So if the money can be collected, if people can donate and throw this money at this sort of thing, at the end of the day, it's probably money well worth being spent. That and also Tallarico's an insane human. So actually having Tallarico represent this state as a senator sounds terrifying, and we'll get into that more. Finally, some attacks already seeming to target him from Ken Paxton's campaign. But here's a little bit of Paxton on Fox News.
There's nothing like getting endorsed by President Trump. I think he's the most significant endorsement in at least my lifetime. If you get his endorsement,
you win.
It's better than it's the gold standard. And so, people have a lot of respect for that, especially in the Republican primary.
Did you speak to the president today?
I sure did. Yeah, he called me this morning. He said he didn't say exactly what was going to happen. He just said, "I think you're going to like what I'm doing today."
I bet that was that a short conversation? Was it a longer conversation?
No, we talked about it.
Did he tell you why?
Yeah, he suggested that he thought I was the best candidate. I don't want to get into details about everything he said because it's a private conversation. But yeah, he thinks I'm the best candidate and that I will actually help him get some of these things done, like the Save America Act, which I have been promoting since they first passed it in the U.S. House. So it's something that I've been disappointed in, that the Senate hasn't gotten done, that John Cornyn has not been successful. And, I even challenged him right after the primary. I said, look, he hasn't accomplished anything in 42 years of anything good. No one's been able to tell me what that is over the last 14 months. I'll give him a chance. Maybe he can get this one really important thing done, and I'll consider dropping out. And sure enough, he couldn't get that done.
He did not get that done, not at all. And this is the thing that will be true about Ken Paxton, the senator, because I think this will happen. Not only do I believe, and you should still vote,
especially if you support him. But in general, people should be voting. I like to vote on Election Day, so I'm not voting this week in any sort of early. But I'm not saying you shouldn't. Republicans have long been snake bitten by the idea that we discourage, just sort of our own political philosophy discourages early voting, mail-in voting, all of that stuff. It hurts us when the other side does it and we don't. And some people do legitimately get busy and can't make it on Election Day. It should be a national holiday, that it should be something we remove from the equation, you being busy, and we should do all the voting on one day. This is all still something I believe. Because of that, as long as I can find the time, and I always find the time, I vote on Election Day. But anyway, it's not a foregone conclusion. It just feels like it is, that Paxton will be the nominee, and then eventually he'll defeat Talafrico, the crazy person, as I continue to steal that nickname from my cousin, Vince Colonnese, who does a show here from 12 to 1 every single day, Monday through Friday. Already, we're seeing some people rewrite the history of John Cornyn, which is hilarious, and then actually also group him with James Talarico, which was odd. One of the idiots from The View was on CNN, someone who at some point, I guess, we thought actually had some sort of conservative bones in her body, but no longer does, Alyssa Griffin. But I do want to play this audio of her claiming that some of these people who will probably not be politicians in Texas in the near future, knock on wood, both of those people, that they're beloved, apparently. I don't know if they're beloved by her or if she's actually claiming beloved in Texas, because this feels like this isn't true on a mass level. Here we go.
I suspect that many close Trump advisors were trying to get the president to end up endorsing Cornyn. This is somebody who criticized him after January 6th the way that virtually every sitting Republican did. He didn't vote for conviction. He's also in Senate leadership. He's one of the most prolific fundraisers in the Senate, and he's a beloved member of the Texas Senate. So what he did by going forward with his endorsement of Ken Paxton, somebody who's been riddled in ethics charges, somebody who's got some issues with his ex-wife in the picture, and brings a lot more questions, I would say, to this race, is he made Texas a lot more in play. When you're talking about Texas potentially being in play for Democrats, you're in a rough place.
That's not true. I just don't think that's true. I know a lot of people are saying that. I know the machine that exists in media places, in our political system, the machine that all of us hate so much, tried as hard as it could. Like it's thrashing in the water right now, as upset as it could be that Cornyn is probably not going to be the Republican nominee for Senate, that he'll actually lose at the primary stage, not even essentially, and I think very much I'd be afraid of this, lose to someone like a Talarico. I think Paxton will do great. Now, granted, again, it's not over. I know I'm speaking as though it is. I feel as though it is. I felt like Paxton would have beaten Cornyn even with Trump's endorsement going the other way, which would have been a rare feat if that had actually occurred. Trump is crushing. I'll just say this one more time. And I know the primary is a very different thing than voting in the actual election. I know that it's people who are on a certain side by and large, even if Texas has the weird open version of primaries. But it's people mostly on the conservative side of the aisle, and maybe more passionately so, who show up at the primary stage of a midterm election and not necessarily will vote at the end. And Talarico is hoping to get a huge groundswell of support from maybe a lot of people who wouldn't traditionally vote in a midterm election either. I just don't believe that once we start actually targeting the insanity, and I said this yesterday, and I'll keep saying it on the show, that he could actually stand to win a state like Texas. Talarico says some crazy stuff. And I did really like what Trump said about Talarico. There were some pretty funny moments there. My favorite maybe being that he was, and this is not something that Talarico claims to be right now, but that he was vegan, and you can't vote somebody vegan into the office in Texas. That's hilarious. That is something that Trump said, President Trump said a little earlier today, and I'll probably play that audio in a little bit. But there's just so many reasons, so many disqualifying beliefs for Talarico that it mystifies me that the pundits actually believe the thing they're saying, because if they had a better familiarity with Texas, which they should, it's often a conversation. We've seen this movie before when Beto was supposed to win and did not win the state of Texas. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to. I shouldn't say it this way. I'm going to be candid about what I'm saying. And I'm filling in a bunch over the next few days over the holiday on nationally syndicated radio. So I'll do my best to represent the important things from this state that I now live in. I went on the Dana show. I'm also going to be on the Chad Benson show, filling in for him. That's heard in Dallas live. It's a 3-hour radio show in the middle of the day that happens to air live on one of the stations. I won't say which one. I know I can. I hear other radio hosts say the name of other radio stations, and it's Dallas, not Houston, but I just won't. My training in media has always told me stick to our call letters and no others, but I am there. But anyway, I'll be filling in all these places, and I'll be saying this too. I don't want to make people believe that you don't have to show up and vote. Because if you keep talking about something like it's a sure thing, maybe some people will be like, you don't need me in this one. I think we're going to need a lot of people to vote, but I just don't believe, and I hope Texas proves me correct in this, that it's actually possible for someone like a Tallarico to represent this state. And who knows? If it is possible, we will all have to collectively have a conversation, me as a brand new Texan, about how that could occur. But we'll see. We're still a little ways away from election night for the primary runoff to be over, and then we'll know who is actually representing Texas on the Republican side, and not just what I think is unofficially Ken Paxton. But here, let's move on. Some other things out there. I thought this was pretty interesting. There was a conversation on MSNBC, MS Now or MSDNC, whatever you want to call it, that feels like the MSNBC clip to end all MSNBC clips. That's how it's being described. And you be the judge. I'll play it. We can all react to it together. If this is the craziest thing you've ever heard, and I don't know how many people who are listeners to this station actually watch this television channel, this cable news, terrible abomination of a far-left channel. But maybe you've just heard a lot of clips of moments on that TV station. But let's see if you think that this is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard from a left-leaning news organization, if that's what I shouldn't even claim that they're that, but that's what they claim to be. Here we go.
What about this passage from Mike Johnson declaring that our rights do not derive from government? They come from you, our Creator and Heavenly Father. Is this him putting God over the Declaration of Independence? McKay?
Well, I actually think that idea is not wholly uncommon. I mean, the idea that we have certain inalienable rights that come from God can be read in a fairly benign way, which is basically that we have innate human rights that our Constitution and our government, our democratic government, are meant to codify, right? That idea is not totally abnormal. I think that the thing that, might alarm some people is some of the rhetoric that we heard at this rally, that we are in a spiritual battle, right? That the forces of good and evil are at work here, and that partisan politics is injected directly into the spiritual, biblical.
Yeah, I'm already done. I want to play this one more time because it's so great. But I'm going to tell you word for word exactly what was said before I hit play on the thing all over again. The question that was asked is literally, what about this passage from Mike Johnson declaring that our rights do not derive from government, they come from the Creator? Is this him putting God above the Declaration of Independence? Is the specific thing that they're asked about. I'm going to read part of the Declaration of Independence after I play this audio again. But here we go. This is so good.
What about this passage from Mike Johnson declaring that our rights do not derive from government, they come from you, our Creator and Heavenly Father? Is this him putting God over the Declaration of Independence? McKay?
Well, I actually think that idea is not wholly uncommon. The idea that we have certain inalienable rights that come from God can be read in a fairly benign way, which is basically that we have innate
I think I want to be done
rights.
with this audio now. That it's so funny to me, though. Like, that's so good to me because, of course, as many of you have figured out, that is word for word something that we in this country believe in, that our rights do not come from anyone other than God. And so why would this be a thing that they debate? Like, it's so amazing to listen to people that have no understanding of the beliefs of the United States of America or history or any of that whatsoever. Like, it's amazing to hear these people say these things that are so profoundly stupid. And I'm trying. I want to make sure that I put the actual words up on the video screen so that you can see them too, because I would rather have the words be there and not just things that I'm saying. But a lot of people, again, know what I'm about to do here. Come on, get this to work for me so I can do it. Oh, there we go. Now I figured out the thing I'm trying to figure out. I know it doesn't matter to people listening on the radio, which I assume is the vast majority of people who are listening to me right now. But I figure that we can go ahead and quote from part of the Declaration of Independence, again, after that question was asked. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments and are instituted among men, derive their powers from the consent of the governed, that whatever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, etc., etc. And I don't mean to say that the way that Joe Biden does when he says, you know the thing. But nonetheless, of course, you now understand, if you didn't before, which I doubt anyone who listened to the station didn't get it a few minutes ago, she is literally asking a question with the most unintelligent version of wording I've ever heard, because she seems to not know what the Declaration of Independence says. She could say the Constitution. She could go some other road of like, hey, is this somehow not representative of whatever this thing is that we think is Democrats and we hate faith now and hate God or whatever it is that they hate these days. It's so amazing. But anyway, I figured I'd do that because that's good. A couple pieces of Trump audio that I want to play before I take a break. I also really want to play a Bongino clip. Dan Bongino has got the third highest rated podcast. I think this number just came out in the middle of May, in the last quarter in the country. He has already jumped all the way back up to number 3 of total downloads per week. So there's a lot of reasons to play Bongino. I've been paying a lot of attention to Dan Bongino over the last however many months it's been that he's been back. But I love something he put out there. There's just so many bad words in it. And I edited some of them. I wanted to play. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. But let's play some Trump audio first, and then we'll see what we do about the Bongino clip. This is President Trump asking, or actually just speaking into a microphone. I think C-SPAN and other places were airing this, reminding us of the strength of the United States of America. This is something he does very, very well.
This administration, we don't apologize for American power or wealth. What we do really is we want to maximize it. We take advantage of it. We unleash it. And we wield it to pursue our country's glorious destiny and our beautiful American dream. We have the American dream back. You didn't hear about the American dream too much for 4 years. And now the American dream is back. This is truly the golden age of America. We are in now the golden age. We have more production, more people. We have more people working today than at any time in the history of our country by far. We have more people having great jobs today than at any time in the history of our country.
I think the weakness of this argument, and I'm not questioning the president, please don't get mad at me, sir. I think the weakness in this argument is the people who don't feel it. And I think there are people who don't feel the truth of this sentiment yet. Of course, there's a lot of people. You heard Chris X on his show talking about some of the inflation that occurred under Biden, even before any kind of inflation we're dealing with now, and how troubled some people are in our society because of that. And it's true. But I think that more people will feel it in the near future. I think we're barreling toward a world where we do have a much better circumstance for the everyday American than we had a short time ago. And I think that will probably be the enduring legacy of the Trump administration, is that not only did he get a lot of his promises completed, a lot of the things he wanted done, but by the time his 4 years are done with in the White House, I think we'll be in a better economic place individually. And I know we're not quite there yet. And I know some younger people especially are mad about this. Look, I'm a 40-year-old man. And so to some people listening to this audience, maybe the vast amount of people listening to this radio station, that's a younger person. To a lot of people who will vote in the upcoming elections, I'm not. I'm middle-aged. And there's a lot of younger people out there who are very upset. Charlie Kirk would tap into this all the time, in what they see as a limited set of capabilities, of possibilities. I saw this article today about how Gen Z is claiming that they have to live on, quote, war ration lunches. that they can't afford to, say, go out and eat if they're working a job and have lunch in whatever version they think past generations got it in, and they're actually attributing it to or comparing it to on social media a war ration. That is uniquely offensive. Like, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't say. We are a country that, of course, the First Amendment is vitally important to, and also the rights that are given to us by God and not by our government. Not that MSNBC or anyone seems to know that. But nonetheless, what I think is really important about discussing the idea that you live on a war ration version of lunch, if you're a young person out there who thinks that, is how ridiculous that is how almost entitled, and I don't mean entitled because you believe that you should be making more money in one of the richest countries in the world. That's okay to believe. But to actually compare it to war rations, to act as though the things that you struggle with are comparable to the things that people who go and fight conflict struggle with, like, that's the offensive nature of the statement to me. And it just shows how often naive people think that they know things they don't know and say things out loud that they don't seem to have any grasp of understanding, and how quickly you lose the plot, which is a phrase a lot of people like to say, because there's a way to circle over, and both J.D. Vance and President Trump have talked about it this week, the struggle that the everyday American has and how they're trying to rectify that problem and doing it as quickly as they can. And there's a very different conversation in acting like the world we live in right now is forcing young people to eat war ration lunches, which is just ridiculous, as I said. But it's tapping into a unintelligent, emotional version of a debate or discussion that hopefully on the left is motivating useful idiots to cast votes for people that won't actually do anything to fix the problem. They'll, in fact, make it worse. As you remember, as I remember, and a lot of those same people know, and why they inevitably voted for Trump. Many people voted for Trump who we would have thought those demographics wouldn't do that. A little bit more Trump audio before we take a break. This is President Trump talking about Cuba. You already have Bernie Sanders and a bunch of other people out there saying crazy things in response to the idea that Cuba's not a great place to live and that some people in Cuba might deserve some justice of some kind. There's a crazy amount of things going on here. But here, let's play this first. This is President Trump standing outside Air Force One being asked some questions about the president of Cuba, Raul Castro, and what the U.S. might be doing in the near future.
What's coming next for Cuba?
Well, we're going to see. It's a failing nation. You see that. It's falling apart. They have no oil. They have no money. It's a failing nation, so I just can't tell you that. But we're there to help. We're there to help the families, the people. And again, a lot of those people are related to me in the sense that I've had such a great relationship with Cuban Americans. They supported me at a 94% level. That's a pretty good level.
They did.
And their relatives are there. So we got to, on a humanitarian basis, we're there to help.
And actually, I'll stop it right there for a second. I love that he says he feels connected to them or related to them. One, because President Trump spends a lot of time in Florida, and so do a lot of Cubans. And two, a lot of Cuban Americans who really don't like communism. They're really not a fan of that at all, did wind up overwhelmingly supporting Trump because they hear communism when they hear a lot of Democrats speak. When they hear the left give their talking points, their national socialist crazy agenda things, when they throw that stuff out there, what a lot of Cubans in Florida heard was, we love communism, we want it here, and they don't like that. They think that that's terrible, as do most people with any sort of historical or actual experience with the bad things. I was thinking about this before I hit play on more audio. As I was driving in, I always think about stuff when I drive into the station, and I think on Saturday I used to talk more about the conversations I have with myself in the car on the way to this job. And I was thinking why people think communism's a good idea. And I feel like I've talked about this before, but young people specifically nowadays, whether they call it something else, whether they call it democratic socialism or some other version of a thing, by and large seem to think it'd be a great idea to hand more money to the government and assume that money goes to us. And as I said, I think I've discussed this before, how obviously wrong that concept is. But what's amazing about it is these same people who say that they would love to see a version of communism take hold in the United States and become the way in which we all are governed, they also seem to yell and scream that they hate kings and fascism. They hate the things that communism is, that you give a very small amount of people a ridiculous amount of power. And the other thing that I love about that idea is the amount of people who yell that the government is corrupt and terrible and horrible, and which we all believe it is on both sides of the aisle. And the solution to that for some is to give them more power and money. Like, it just, like, none of it makes sense. And I think you could easily make this argument. And then the best thing you can do, and this is something that the left has very obviously been trying to, I think, mirror what they actually do with what they're accusing Trump of doing, which is saying that no matter what promises you make, when you get into the office of the White House or any political position, you don't do anything good for the people who put you there. This is something Democrats are trying to do, attack Trump on. They're saying that there's a fracture within the conservative party, even though the primaries are not really proving that to be true at all. And they're going a step further from saying that, you know, there's a fracture like that. They're saying that a whole lot of people are disappointed. And some of the podcast idiots out there who seem to very simply understand politics or history or any of that stuff too, all of those people that are maybe also saying that they might regret endorsing Trump or anyone, even the Tucker Carlsons of the world, who I don't necessarily think are as dumb as, say, the Theo Vaughns of the world. And I kind of like Theo's podcast, I'll be honest. But a lot of people have expressed regret that they, at one point, did an interview with Trump in the world of podcasting. All of these people are trying to tell us that they reflect the mainstream feeling for the everyday American who voted for Trump, and I just don't think that's true. I do think a lot of people are frustrated with gas prices, and I do think a solution needs to be had there. But I think by and large, there's a lot more shades of gray than they want there to be in these medium places, these internet places, or even like mainstream media places when they claim these sort of things. And so I just find it very important to point out, to demonstrate to you the value of actually understanding what's going on and what we seem to be seeing, and who may rise to the top, who might not rise to the top, and why. And I just always think back to, you know, the side of the aisle that's being fought here in Texas or anywhere else really is coming closer and closer to a communist, horrible rule, and even a lot of the things that, say, the Nazis believed. And I know that sometimes people say that's not true. I fell into a rabbit hole, and I don't know why I'm talking about this on the air right now, but I did this last night, diving deeper into people who say Nazis were far right or far left, and that the actual party that created the Nazis called itself socialist, and really believed in a certain amount of power going to a very small amount of people who did a lot of really bad things. Conservatives don't believe in that. They don't want to see a whole lot of power go to a very small amount of government-tied people. That is something that should be a welcome message to anybody anywhere else. If you dumb something down to one point, if you were arguing with someone, you could ask them very simply, do you think a very small group of individuals who claim to be benefiting you with some sort of connection to whatever government is in charge of us should have a whole ton of power? And if your answer is no, then guess what? You're a conservative. You're on this side of the political aisle. All right, one last thing I do want to play, just because we touched on it a second ago, and I do want to play a little bit more of it. This is Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is doing a really good job being the acting Attorney General, and maybe he'll be the actual Attorney General very soon. But he's talking about Raul Castro and being asked a kind of dumb question about if the U.S. actually expects to be capable of going after him. And his answer is, hell yeah. Have you seen what we've been doing recently?
And quick follow-up, what are the prospects that you could get Raul Castro to the United States to face justice, given the situation there, and what steps are the U.S. willing to take to get him back here?
Well, we indict men outside of this country all the time, and there's all kinds of different ways that we get them here. The reason why we indict somebody is because we want them here to face justice in front of a jury of their peers. So,
go Todd.
How we go about doing that obviously depends on the circumstances in the case, and I'm not going to go beyond that, but we expect that we didn't indict. This isn't a show indictment. This is an indictment because we expect that there was a warrant issued for his arrest. So we expect that he will show up here by his own will or by another way.
By his own will or by another way. I like that he said that last part because I'm pretty sure it's going to be another way if he winds up showing up here. But I wouldn't doubt this administration on this specific topic. And I also would point out that if something is to happen in the near future regarding the leader in Cuba, you're just checking box after box of doing things that the people in a place are happy about. Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, you just be more and more. And I know that some people say get out of foreign interference, and I understand that, and I agree with that by and large. But I think it's so interesting that you might be sitting in a place in the near future if something is to happen in Cuba. I don't know for sure if something will, but if we see something similar to what we saw other places, where you would be able to say that if you're talking about these other nations, there are so many people that are saying how much they love Trump. Actually, President Trump made a joke about Israel and how a recent poll found that 99% of the Israeli people are happy with the president of the United States. I'm not saying that's a goal of the U.S. president, but it's just an interesting thing that the left cares about when it's their side. They care about it more than what you and I think of who's ever in charge. They care what other people think, and then also apparently don't if it doesn't benefit them all that much. All right, we'll take a break. We have a lot to talk about. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. More coming up after this.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters. And we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source. And these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
If you have roof problems, you can sure see them when it rains. This is Deb Tejada from Tejas Roofing. If you see a leak, call me immediately, 281-251-0304. I'll send over the Tejas Roof Repair truck.
That truck has everything our experienced crew needs to fix your roof, right then and there.
The Tejas Roofing crew has been working together fixing leaky roofs for 15 years.
It's not a pretty truck, but it has everything we need to get the job done. I kind of like the way it looks.
Most roofing repairs cost less than $500. Why? Because we find the cause of the leak and repair that leak. We won't try to sell you services you don't need.
And we'll fix it right away because everything we need is in our truck.
Don't put off fixing a leaky roof. Call me at Tejas Roofing and I'll send over the truck. 281-251-0304. When you think of roofing repairs or a new roof, think Tejas Roofing, your Houston roofing company. 281-251-0304. That's Tejas Roofing, 281-251-0304.
Plumbing emergencies never happen at a convenient time. Usually they happen on the weekends, holidays, or while you're away on vacation. I'm Richard Sod, president of Nick's Plumbing. When you find yourself facing a plumbing emergency, call the licensed and experienced professionals at Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services. Nick's Plumbing has been Houston's first choice for all your plumbing needs since 1979. Our experts can take your most difficult plumbing issues and fix them fast, fix them right, and usually for less than you'd expect. Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services is the right choice for any plumbing job, from a leaky faucet whole house repipe, or a complete sewer line replacement. You can count on Nick's Plumbing to do the job right. With over 40 years in business and over 150,000 satisfied customers, Nick's wants to be your plumbing company. Nick's Plumbing offers free estimates and free second opinions. Call Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services, 713-868-9907, or visit us on the web, nicksplumbing.com.
MPL 38548.
Call Nick's Plumbing today. We're on the way.
Listen, suggest all you want. Please investigate all you want, right? Like, to me, I'm not like, I'm above the law and how dare you, like.
Did you? Hold on just a second. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. That is Ilhan Omar, a short, I think just a few months ago, or maybe even more recent than that, popping up on a pretty big radio show called The Breakfast Club, daring people to investigate her for the things that she's probably closely tied to, the Somali community fraud that happened in Minnesota, where she happens to be a pretty high-ranking politician. More and more stuff coming out seems to directly connect her to said fraud. So Fox News found her in a hallway while she's supposed to be doing her job and also probably stealing your taxpayer dollars, and asked her these questions. She wants scrutiny. So Fox News is trying to placate that desire and ask her a whole bunch of things. Surprisingly, she didn't seem to want to answer any of these questions.
Did you ask Minnesota Democrats to block the subpoena for the investigation of Feeding Our Future on the state level?
Swing and a miss.
The House Republicans.
We got questions.
Considering investigating Feeding Our Future now.
Are you?
And would you cooperate with that subpoena and provide documents if they request?
You gonna any of this?
The House Oversight Committee.
Carry it a little bit to answer some of these questions. Ilhan, is that okay? She's walking away. She's just gone.
Listen.
She went down the hallway now. I should play that one more time. Let's
suggest all
go
you
ahead.
want. Please investigate all you want, right? Like, to me, I'm not like I'm above the law and how dare you, like.
Yeah, and then you just ignore us. And I think you do believe that you're above the law. That's how the criminals do the bad things. That's how a lot of people that we see do bad things believe they're going to succeed at continuing to do said bad things. But it's just amazing. And there's no better way to discuss it or talk about it than to say that I hope that we inevitably get receipts, the receipts that feel like they exist here, because Ilhan Omar, who seems to need the humble smacking that a actual indictment of her own might give her, is something a whole lot of politicians need. They need to be reminded that they are not, in fact, above the law. They can't do whatever they want, and there are repercussions. And honestly, it would also go a long way to making a lot of voters very happy that we're actually holding people accountable. Now, granted, there's another piece of audio out there that I think is pretty interesting, and it's also horrible. So I want to play it, and there's going to be some foreign language, but then you'll hear somebody actually translating what's being said. But here's what you should know before I hit play on this audio. This is an actual BBC news story. This is the British broadcast company interviewing a Afghan father trying to say how bad things have got in Afghanistan, how bad things are, and how much this guy is struggling. But here's the problem when I play this video. They're trying to make him sound like a victim, and something he's going to say out loud that he's about to do is horrific. And it's horrific on a basic human standard. And so what I think is really horrible or gross or disgusting or whatever word you want to use is how often you see this from the left. You see them trying to excuse away whatever the horrible thing is if they can blame this behavior on somebody else that they somehow hope is, I think, a conservative or tied to Trump or anybody like him, even though the biggest failure in Afghanistan actually came from President Biden and the horrible withdrawal there. But I want to play this because there are people that you shouldn't be able to turn into people you have compassion or care about or victims when some of the things they say are truly horrendous. We should hold people accountable to those horrible things that they say. But here you go. This is a real BBC News story that libs of TikTok shared and others shared on social media that went very viral.
Abdul Rashid Azimi's home, we're suddenly confronted by the devastating impact. He calls for his daughters, Rukia and Rahila are twins. They're 7. Abdul is eager to explain why he's making unbearable choices. I'm ready to sell my daughters. I'm poor and in debt. I come home with parched lips, distressed and confused. My children come to me saying, Baba, give us some bread.
If you didn't hear it, if you thought you caught it, but maybe you misunderstood it, it's really there. The man says out loud, I'm prepared to sell my daughters, selling them into some pretty horrific things. As you can, I don't even want to say, I think a lot of people can logically follow the steps that I'm taking here, but he's going to sell his 7-year-old daughters, who you actually see in the video. The craziest thing to me, even though there's so many crazy things about this, is that the news program people are shooting the video of the father and looking at the little kids, and they're in the video too, and they don't immediately just like take those kids and run, because that's what I would do as a human being. I would pick those 2 little kids up, those 7-year-old girls, and I would flee as fast as I could in any opposite direction to bring them to safety, because it seems that what's about to happen to them is horrible. And instead, news media so often does this too, to be honest, where it's not even just the political thing that I wind up hating or the political thing that makes me mad, but it's the sensationalizing and discussing other things for viewership that makes them seem so far from human. Because it's not a human being that would see what's going on there, that would have that conversation with that father that's weeping into a camera and think that they're going to leave and report a story where anyone sees him as a good guy because he's going to sell his daughters. It's surreal. I don't know what else to say about it, but I saw it. I was infuriated by it, as I imagine you are. And the thing that I can talk about that goes beyond the more obvious, horrible things that exist within that story is how this is sort of the playbook. If you're talking about Democratic media or liberal media or far left media, the playbook is to find a reason to turn anyone into a victim if it serves their greater purpose, whatever that purpose might be. These are the people like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who they turned into this guy who was just a Maryland man or something, wherever he was from, just a person who was innocent, even though he was here illegally, and his wife had accused him of beating her and had gone to court because she said that he was beating her. And then they actually rolled his wife onto television, acting as though she was missing him and wanted him back. And when asked about the accusations that he was a wife beater, she was like, I'd rather not talk about that. Like think about how disgusting that is. You know, I think I've talked about this before. I know I need to take another break. I know this is a relatively heavy topic that I'm talking about, and I do like to have fun. So after I do take a break, I promise we'll lighten it up a bit and have a more fun discussion before we get out of here for the day. But the last thing I was thinking about, and I believe I've mentioned this before, I don't know if it was doing the Saturday version of this show or this version, but people I know in media and news places who have been tasked with pretty difficult jobs. One guy who I knew in Chicago for a while that worked at the Chicago Tribune, his job was to write about the shootings that happened all the time there. And I've referenced this before, and I'm not accusing him of being a bad person. I just think that the experience of that job changed him in a way that not a whole lot of people that don't say fight and defend our country aren't also changed. Because a lot of people who do that, military men and women, profoundly changed by the experience and the thing that they do to protect us and the reason we should be so grateful for the sacrifices that they make for us that happen in all sorts of ways in their lives. But this guy would race toward these shootings in Chicago that happen all the time. And oftentimes he said he would find the victim still on the ground dying, and the mother may be arriving before the police crying, and then eventually the police would get there. And he would have to document, photograph, and write about these stories. And I remember talking to him after he'd done this job for a few years and him saying that he'll probably never be the same, that whatever version of him existed before the job is a very different version of the person that existed now. And at times I feel like that's somewhat true of a whole lot of media. I just see media places that get so desensitized to their own ridiculous reporting of things that they wind up showing up in a place like that in Afghanistan, talking to a father of 2 7-year-old girls, and he says out loud he's going to sell them. And they're like, oh, that's terrible for you. as opposed to I need to save these little kids. The humanity just seems to go away for so many people in so many of these places in such a disgusting way. And so I don't know. It's just, again, as I said, I'm going to try to lighten things up, and I promise we'll do a different version of the show in the very near future after we take this break. But I just couldn't get over that. I couldn't get over the way in which, and this went very viral all over the internet, as I said, and a lot of people saying the same thing I'm saying, save the kids and save them now, and do that because it's the right thing to do as a human, even if it's going to be difficult and you're probably not going to succeed. Like I don't think I could physically stand there, listen to that, and not try to do something, regardless of how likely it was that I would survive, just because it seems inherently wrong as a human being to not try to do anything. All right, quick break, a little bit more. The Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-909-9696. 800-909-9696.
A breast cancer diagnosis can turn your world upside down. But your Houston Methodist team assures you they'll use the latest cancer research and technologies, collaborating to treat and remove the tumor and reconstruct your breasts, restoring symmetry, sensation, and your sense of self. That's the difference between practicing medicine and leading it for you. Houston Methodist, leading medicine.
For many years, the Pine Box has been helping families gain insight into the often confusing and extremely expensive task of arranging a loved one's funeral. I have worked with Pine Box in the death of 2 family members because I know I can trust Chip Beresford at the Pine Box, he's the owner, to be sure that he walks me through that process and that I am prepared for the funeral and that I get the quality I seek without breaking the budget. Because it's a very difficult thing. No one wants to feel like a cheapskate handling a funeral of a loved one, but you also can't afford to go broke either. You know, funerals are statistically the 3rd largest expense in someone's life. The Pine Box sells the same caskets and funeral merchandise that is offered at funeral homes, but at a tremendous savings, and delivery is immediate and free within the Houston area. Visit their website, thepinebox.com, or call Chip directly at 1-888-PINE-BOX. That's 1-888-PINE-BOX. I trusted them, and you can. The Pine Box.
Matches back here in the Mac Z-Cliner. I'm recovering from surgery thanks in large part to this miracle chair, the Mac Z-Cliner. You can sit in it, you can recline in it, you can watch TV in it, you can eat in it, you can sleep in it. It goes to zero gravity position. The Mac Z-Cliner helped me recover. It also has heat and massage, a place to charge your cell phone. Come out to Gallery Furniture, buy a Mac Z-Cliner before your surgery. Gallery Furniture delivers tonight, or after your surgery, Gallery Furniture delivers tonight, and you'll sit and sleep great tonight.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. A lot of stuff to talk about. Very serious, very heavy day, at least from the topics I chose, or the things that I thought were the most value. So let's talk about some things that are a little less serious before we get out of here. I do want to say one other thing about the Dan Bongino audio that I'm going to choose not to play because I don't think I got all the bad words out of it. And I'm disappointed in that. It's pretty funny. He goes to a couple different celebrity, or well, he didn't, but he plays audio of other people that went to a few celebrities at a recent celebrity event, and they're asked questions about, you know, how terrible and awful capitalism is, and they all say how bad they think it is. And what's really funny about this to me is they're all worth ridiculous amounts of money. So Bongino then responds to the entirety of this topic by saying, just give the money back. If you guys think that capitalism is terrible and all the money you've made is unfairly given to you and should be given to other people, then go ahead and just give it all back. Give it to whoever you think deserves it, and you'll actually be living the thing that you're being very hypocritical about saying, because they never want to point that out, that they themselves are worth a ridiculous amount of money. But all right, some sillier things before we get out of here with just a couple minutes to go. I thought this was interesting. A college used AI to read graduate names, and it ended up malfunctioning quite terribly. I don't know why you needed AI for this, why no one else could read the names, but here's a little example of that.
Here's what's happening. We're using a new AI system as our reader. So
I love the booing.
That is a lesson learned for us. It didn't feel sincere, and it kind of felt like they didn't care. I would have liked a little bit more thought to go into it rather than pushing something as simple as reading some names off to an AI device.
You know, there's another thing about this. A bunch of college kids hate AI right now because they think it's inevitably taking the jobs that they're never going to have a chance to get, and I understand that. But also the fact that it does, as she said, just feel like who gives a crap. And so this was a community college in Arizona where the kids might already feel like the graduation thing that they're doing isn't to the same level as kids who go to not community college. They deserve that same treatment of, hey, you accomplished something you should be proud of. You know what's funny about this? This is a weird thing to think of, but with just a couple minutes before we get out of the show, I might as well just mention it. My wife, I went to community school here in the United States. It's one of the ways she actually wound up being in the United States is furthering her education after getting a whole degree in Mexico, deciding to do it again here. And when she graduated with her degree, she felt like the graduation didn't feel all that important or all that significant. There weren't really ceremonies and things. And it was pretty disappointing to be around her for that. And then I think I bought her a graduate cup for the year that she graduated school in the United States. And she's not a 20-something. So whenever anybody sees the cup and it's just a certain number of years ago, they question it sometimes. They're like, wait a minute. Does that actually match up with how old you are? And she's like, no, leave me alone. Who cares? It doesn't matter because, yeah, she furthered her education in this country a couple different times, actually. She's probably the kind of person who would love to be in school for her entire life. I can't get on board with that. I very much love not being in school. And I'm pretty sure that that's the kind of thing that more people out there also love. But my wife is one of those people who just likes to study and get challenged in certain ways. But I agree already that there are people who get the short end of the stick as far as your graduation goes. And so to have AI read names to 20-somethings graduating community college, that's a few different slaps in the face all at the same time. Another story out there that I thought was interesting, just piece of audio that I thought was funny. This is a Dutch musician recreating Dolly Parton's Jolene in the style of Dire Straits. This went very viral online. Whenever music like this goes viral online, it becomes amusing. There's a long-form version of it I'm not going to play, but this is a guy doing a cover of a thing that went viral. And just for any of the internet overlords out there, this is fair use because I'm reacting to this thing that I'm playing. Here we go.
Jolene.
Nice.
I'm begging of you, please don't take my man.
I love these random music things that go viral all the time. The There I Ruined It guy is a guy you should probably follow on the internet too because he does a lot of that stuff where he mashes songs together, uses AI to create different versions of things. But this guy's pretty funny. The Dire Straits version of Jolene sounds like something that probably would do pretty well if it were out there in the world. All right, one last thing to play before we get out of here. We have almost no time left. We probably don't have enough time to play it. So you know what? Actually, I'll abandon ship on that last one. We won't do that. We'll save that for another day. A guy who set a weird world record. You don't know this here in Texas. I've not joked about it before here, but I joked about a lot of the other places I've been. I'd love to set a world record. It needs to be easy enough for me to set it, and there's not a lot out there that I feel confident in, but I'd love to hold one for any amount of time. It would make me feel very accomplished. We'll talk about that more next time. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. See you tomorrow, everybody.
You're listening to the Voice of Texas, AM 700 KSEV.